You're tired of working day in and day out, trying to find new customers, chasing leads, doing whatever work comes your way, and never getting to earn what you're worth. You do it because you love the work, and you're passionate about serving older customers and their families. We get it. What you need is more of the right customers for your business, and more income for you and your family, so you can grow and help more people in your community. Well, you're in the right place, because this is Booming Your Bottom Line.
Hi, this is Mark Hager, and you're listening to episode 64 of Booming Your Bottom Line. We have an extra special treat for you today, a longtime leader in the aging in place arena, and undoubtedly the authority on technology for the aging baby boomers. Our special guest this week is Laurie Orlov. Laurie is a tech industry veteran, writer, speaker, and elder care advocate. She is the founder of Aging in Place Technology Watch, market research that provides thought leadership, analysis, and guidance about technology and services that enable boomers and seniors to remain longer in their homes of choice. Laurie, it's so good to talk with you again. Thank you for joining us.
Pleased to be here.
Yeah, Laurie, thanks for taking the time with us today. So what we focus on today with you is we want to give our listeners some great information about the aging boomer market, your mission and perspective and insight, and as an industry leader. So let's just start. Let's start there. Who are you, and what's your view of the world right now from where you sit?
So my background is in IT, and then I spent 9 years as an industry analyst at Forrester Research. And I started this business in 2009. I published my first market overview. I took on my first advisory client, and I gave my first speech on this topic. And the reason I got into this business was because I was a skilled industry analyst prior in the IT field. I had the toolkit to be an analyst. And I saw, after doing a little research, that there was no industry analyst for the technology space for aging in place. There was basically some writing about it by various people, but nothing that I would consider to be a categorization of offerings in the market in a clear, concise way. So I said, well, I know how to do this, and so I launched it under the theory that it would provide, first of all, a business opportunity for me, and also help the people who read what I wrote, initially through blogging, to figure out what's going on in the technology market, the trends related to technology and older adults. So that's what I've focused on since 2009, and built up a business, built up a, I guess you'd say, a leadership position in a niche.
Yeah, no, and that's why we knew you and how we found you, and we've been following you for a while. So,
yep.
Our show is really about helping that small business owner, whether they're creating a new invention or a tech product that goes in the home, or our goal is to show these small business owners some insight and background. We want to inspire folks all around the U.S. and abroad as we learn from you and chat about this stuff today. We want to encourage them in their pursuit, just like you saw, that there's a small business dream that you can bring to fruition while you're helping boomers and their families in the year ahead. So if I might, go back to that beginning one more time. When you started, what did you hope to accomplish by entering this space?
Well, I didn't really know what I was going to accomplish with it so much as I realized that I have the ability to write and have a voice and segment markets. And so I said, well, this market is not well segmented, and so therefore I can do that. And so what I hoped to accomplish was initially just to get the segmentation done. What are the categories of these companies? What are the products that fit into the categories? What is the problem that has yet to be solved? Really pivoting off of a speech that Joe Coughlin gave at the 2005 White House Conference on Aging, in which he said in that speech that the industry of technology for older adults was a set of cottage industry companies, and instead what it was needed was a cathedral. His point was that some kind of vision that linked all of these products together would be that cathedral versus everybody starting up a one-off kind of thing that didn't necessarily map to any of the other things. So that was my inspiration really for doing this. I said, I come out of an analyst business and I'm in the vision business. And those of us who are in the vision business, basically what we do is we write about a vision for the way things should be. And that's really what I've refined over the past, I guess, 6 years now is how should things be? What are those categories? What's missing? And clearly still what's missing are integrating standards across the various technologies. But the other thing that I think is also really clear to me now that wasn't clear at the beginning is that moving forward, all technology for older adults is going to actually be offered on standard platforms that are available for everybody. Mm-hmm. We're not going to see, and we shouldn't see, more special purpose products that are strictly focused on seniors. One example of this is there is a special purpose product in the market today called GrandPad that is intended to be a tablet for people in sort of the 85 plus age range. But it does use standard components. It's really software that is locked down and limited and partnered with carriers to help those seniors who use the product to use it in a safe and secure way compared to sort of the wild west of the internet for everybody else. Now, to me, that is a standard set of technologies that has been customized through software. That is where we're headed, moving away from special hardware.
Okay. Right. Well, talking about your blogging, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan. I have been for a long time, and I think that people have come to realize that your hard-hitting and no-nonsense approach to talking about what you see going on, talking about that vision, right, is something that we've come to depend on, and really appreciate.
You probably read my self-driving car blog.
I did. That was so great. I loved it. I love
the title too. Great job catching attention.
Yeah, moon dust versus moonshot.
Well, listen. Why don't you tell us? We'll switch gears a little bit here. Why don't you tell us about something that maybe you've witnessed doing your work that had an impact on you and has helped keep you motivated to keep forging your way ahead?
Well, aside from the initial start, which I got really off of that Joe Coughlin inspiration, I've met a lot of great people in this field and people who are very interested in improving the technology capabilities of older adults, particularly older adults with hearing impairment. I have encountered a company in the past 2 years that's a division of Plantronics called Clarity Life that has done amplified cell phones and phones for people with hearing impairment. I find that the whole hearing impairment ability to communicate with those who actually can hear, I find that to be an inspirational innovation. Another innovation that I got really excited about, you probably read my blog post last year, as I was practically jumping around, was the invention of the Amazon Echo.
Oh, yeah.
And the beginnings of what I see as the ability to talk to devices as opposed to have to type or push buttons. To me, that's quite a breakthrough. And I hope to see more. In fact, Amazon today just came out with 2 variations of the Amazon Echo, including portability, if you can believe it. Now you can take it out of the house.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yep, just came out today. Check ZDNet. There's a new announcement about it today. And I'll put it on my website at some point. So that, to me, these are the kinds of things that are really breakthrough, interesting events, things that help people who are, we have a large population of people who don't hear well. The devices, for example, that you can place in concert halls so that people with hearing aids can actually hear the music. I think these are really great. I'm not sure as much has happened of benefit for people with vision issues. I think that seems to be all focused on the nonprofits associated with the blind. I don't think there's as much innovation going on there. But at any rate, and mobility innovations, I think, are also, I'm easily impressed with new inventions for people who have mobility issues. One of my neighbors, actually, who is in a wheelchair, has just had a swimming pool put in her backyard, and amazingly difficult to find waterproof motorized wheelchairs.
Yep.
You ought to be able to ride the wheelchair into the pool and ride it back out again. Now, that's an opportunity for a small business in the space of DME. You know the durable medical equipment industry.
Yeah, right.
They are looking for new business opportunities because I believe there's been a fall off in reimbursement for traditional areas they're in. And I know they're looking into the personal emergency response pendant business. Also, they should be banding together and looking for innovations that would help constituents with problems that don't seem to be particularly well solved. And that one is a good example. The motorized waterproof wheelchair. So you ride down a ramp into a pool and buzz yourself back out again.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
That's
without having to wear it.
Yeah.
So I hope at some point Echo doesn't, continue with a hungover Alec Baldwin as their spokesperson. But
Oh yeah, I hope not.
I mean, yeah, it's entertaining, but I don't know that it really gets the message of who it's for.
No,
But anyway,
no, absolutely.
so small business owners.
Spare time, by the way, he's also an announcer for the New York Philharmonic.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
pretty
cool.
interesting because he's not hungover when he introduces.
No,
himself.
right. Well, he's just a good actor, anyway. So, small business owners, Mark, me, everybody else at some point, yourself, they struggle. So, to keep business coming in, especially after the recession, boy, I mean, I can speak to that with housing and finance being the bookends of my industry as an architect, So, part of our goal here at Booming Your Bottom Line is to make sure that people stay afloat and keep growing so they can keep giving their gifts to others. And what do you tell people right now, or what would you to our listeners that are wondering if, it's worth it? Nothing that's worth, doing is easy, but what do you tell people that are asking if they should go through all this to be a part of this niche?
Well, like I said, the DME industry is already there, and so one of the things that makes this industry work at all is the ability to associate oneself with others who have related but not identical capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really think the world of selling point products all the time is not necessarily the most effective way to get products out there. And in fact, there are websites. First Street Online and Elderlux, for example, are websites that are essentially catalogs. They're catalog companies. And so getting products into catalogs, getting partnered with home security and home automation providers that actually get into the house, what I refer to as not the last mile, it's the last 10 feet, getting into the house. Local installers of high-speed networks and communications equipment, get to know the local Best Buy, get to know the local Verizon shop or the Apple Store, any of those things. These are really all, basically it's very difficult to take a small business and ramp it up all by oneself unless one has a lot of money. So that means it's really all about joining associations, partnering with other people, and finding related offerings.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Very excellent points. So, I know that you do a lot of keeping up on things that are going on in the industry because that's your job, but what do you do for yourself as an individual business owner to help you run a better business? What do you leverage for yourself to have a bigger impact, whether it be, self-directed learning or things like that?
Excuse me. Well, the most important thing I do to keep current, excuse me, I have Google Alerts. And every day into my inbox come the Google Alerts I've configured, which is about 7 or 8 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I find out even if nobody sends me a press release, I find out about new offerings.
Right.
And then I save press releases that I can find, and then at some point I aggregate them, get together in a blog post. So Google Alerts is the way is really my best method for knowing what's going on in the space. And I have alerts for aging in place, technology aging in place, healthcare, home healthcare. I try to leave no stone unturned.
Right, and that's definitely a good tool. I've been a long-time user of those myself, and that's a good tool for even a local business owner to keep up on information that's happening, in their geographic area. So
Right,
that's a
you can
great
even
tip.
set one up for your local geography.
Right.
There's no limit to how many you can set up, and they basically push into your face things you might otherwise not be aware of. I honestly think the press release PR process is failing us.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, the lists are not current that are used by PR firms. I'm still, for example, I left the IT field in 2007, and I'm still getting press releases about new versions of Oracle. And new activities related to chief information officers. I have to say, I find that to be lazy on the part of the PR people who don't actually go out and update their lists.
Right.
But more to the point, it makes the PR people almost irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked to hundreds of business owners, and I got to be honest with you, some of our standard advice is that there are so many things you can do right in your community to get yourself out there, expand your reach without having to rely on PR.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Big marketing firm and paid advertising, print advertising, much of that has gone by the wayside, especially in this demographic where folks are kind of looking to align who they do business with the people that actually, kind of fit their moral and ethical compass. So being out there supporting a 5K for the blind probably does more than a full print ad, So anyway, changing times. For
I
sure.
agree with that. And blogging, quite honestly, blogging in local, repeatedly about local events.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing that, the chances are someone's going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to, for example, in a particular community, you might want to have 4 or 5 related business owners actually contribute to sort of a rotating blog about what's new, what's happening, what products are interesting,
Sure.
and who would they be for.
Yeah, and that's your own referral network, and then you don't have to necessarily write every week, but it's kick and rear on local search. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, good idea. So Laurie, what's on the horizon for you guys, as you look forward? You've obviously got your feet down and firmly planted, but you mentioned you're a visionary. Where are you going with all this? You've got 20 or 30 years, a couple more decades of this whole silver tsunami, if you are okay calling it that, the whole boomer consumer demographic. Where are you going?
Well, basically, my goal is, as long as I have the energy for it, is to try to keep up with the trends in the market. And so the new one I think is really service versus product. I just, also see that we've got this sort of fad going on right now about tech-enabled home care. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but the home care industry definitely is winning over the assisted living industry.
Yeah.
And in fact, you could argue that the assisted living industry is really setting itself up to be the niche for the rich, and everybody else is going to have to be at home. And then the question is, how can people stay at home and get enough home care to help them really function without having to pay for so much home care that they can't afford it? And one of the thoughts that I had, I didn't actually get it into this report, but I'll probably blog about it in the near future, is the idea of sort of sharing home care workers in a tiny geography. So let's just say your particular street has 3 or 4 people who could benefit from some visits in home care to help them with a few tasks. Well, if we could figure out a way to sort of collaborate on need and then collaborate on provider, that means the home care companies potentially get more revenue that way, but the individuals don't have to pay for more than they need.
Right.
You could say this is a little bit like the village movement. I don't know if you're familiar with the village.
Oh, yeah.
The Village to Village Network. It's a little bit like that, but this time flip the point of view around and say the home care workers, the home care organizations, if they could figure out how to actually use what's been around in the IT world for years, logistics. So if you think about logistics and how the UPS trucks only make right turns, right?
Right.
The idea, and they have maps and planning of locations and what have you. If there was some ability to add logistics into the world of home care as to where people live, where is the need, where is the urgent need. One of the people, Laura Carstensen, who's a professor at Stanford, I interviewed her for a report, and she said what would really be great is if we could sort of flip on an external light on our house that says we need a little help right now, and pre-qualified teenagers in the area would come over and help us shovel snow or rake leaves. We just flip on our little light. And that's
you have a nurse button on the front of your house, right?
There you go.
Like you do in a hospital bed. No, it's funny you mentioned that. When I just from an outside the box perspective, when I wrote the book I wrote about aging in place, we were in the recession, and I said, well, if 1 out of every 8 houses is a foreclosure, why don't the 8 neighbors that are 40 to 80 years old buy the house, make the bottom floor a card room and a commercial kitchen, let the caretakers stay upstairs in that house, and they're in charge of that cul-de-sac.
That's a great idea.
Right?
I'm sitting here in my house looking across a little waterway where at least 2 of the 4 houses I'm looking at are foreclosures.
Right. And the idea that to last another 12 to 15 years at home, typically 20 hours a week is good for 70% of us. It's either, cleaning the gutters, cooking, driving to doctor's appointments. Typically it's house care before it's hygiene care.
Right.
That can keep us there longer and safer. And so you're right. I mean, Lewis Tenenbaum, he talks about, you skim off the top 10% and the bottom 10% who can pay for it out of pocket or have it paid for because they've already spent their way into poverty or whatever the case is. The rest of us are the ones that are lost.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with that. In fact, his latest initiative around getting incentives for renovating your home so you could stay in it even if you're in the middle class, you're not the bottom or the top. I think that's a great idea, and I think we're going to see. The thing is that's Lewis's idea, and what you just described is yet another great idea. I mean, how to combine all these together into sort of a transformation, and combine that with the tech-enabled home care crowd, which is all buzz going on right now, and the VCs are very interested in these companies. But the question is, how are these companies mapping themselves into the problem that we're describing, which is we are going to age in our own homes and we are not going to move to assisted living. And so how is that going to work so that we can succeed at it?
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I got to tell you, for the people that are listening to this today, for the right person, that conversation that we just had was worth thousands of dollars, because that could launch several new companies right there. Yeah. So, Laurie, as we're wrapping up here, if you could give one piece of advice to a small business owner who's serving older people and their families, what would it be? What the best thing that they could know or that they could do that you think would help them succeed?
Well, I would say, rather than selling a product to a customer, I would say flip yourself around and try to imagine your life in their shoes. Mm-hmm. And so empathy and looking at a person as a whole person in terms of their needs. For example, a great example of this would be, selling somebody a device or understanding that it's part of a whole need for them to socialize more.
Yeah.
If the need is to socialize more, want to think about that. If you're a small business owner, are you creating little events that people could actually come to where they could meet other people and socialize more?
Yeah,
Excellent advice.
good stuff. Hey, Laurie, thank you for taking the time. I know we're all very busy, and you especially. You've been a joy to have with us. Like Mark said, we know you're a leader and a straight shooter in your industry, and we've all really come to appreciate your leadership and trust in your advice, in social media and print format, and now here as well on the call with us. So I appreciate you stepping forward and being a voice for positive change in our country, and I just want to say thanks. Before we go, can you make sure that you let people know how to get a hold of you?
Yes, my email address is Laurie, Laurie.orlov@gmail.com. Orlov is ORLOV, and my website is ageinplacetech.com.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thanks again, Laurie. Everybody who listened today, like Mark said, boy, these are the conversations that are happening happening naturally, but happening nationally. Just like Laurie and Mark and I were talking today, and we all do know a lot of the same people in the fact that there should be parallels and overlaps, and that's how this movement happens and takes hold at a national level. So I hope we left you with some things to think about today and some inspiration. And you guys are getting something up here at Booming Your Bottom Line that very few people are getting, and that's information about the boomer market from a known leader like Laurie. So take it to heart, mull it over, learn from it, and then implement something, okay? That's what we hope for you. We hope to sort of train the trainer and leverage this megaphone with people like Laurie so that there are small businesses all across the U.S. stepping up, solving problems so that we can have a successful future as a nation. Until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Laurie.